Thank you for giving me the opportunity of addressing everybody today. My name is Adele Kazilsky. I'm the CEO of a company called FutureGen Laboratories. You've heard a lot of talk, particularly from our last speaker, about genetics. And the sun is just starting to rise on genetics. Genetics is starting to play a very big role in our lives, in many, many aspects, but particularly in the reproductive space. So I'd like to present to you who we are and what we do. Okay, this is Tully and Abrushka Brenstein. In 2016, they were a young married couple. They decided to start a family, and unbeknownst to them, as other speakers have spoken about, we never ever are told about the difficulties we will face. They faced an infertility problem, and they went through quite a hectic journey. It took them 5 years. And eventually they were blessed with a twin boy, a girl, actually through surrogacy. Abrushka is a very entrepreneurish guy. He belongs to a company called Kingfisher Medical Supplies, and he saw that genetic testing, which is part of the IVF journey for a lot of couples, was very expensive, very time-consuming. And so he decided to change that in South Africa, and he explored options, bought equipment, and very soon after that, he approached myself. I actually have a degree in biochemistry genetics, but I am involved in the business world, particularly in accounting administration. And I had a passion always for genetics, and he asked me if I would like to start a laboratory, which we did. We are backed by the Karma Group, which is a very big part of South Africa's healthcare industry. They were very big with the COVID vaccines. They invested in us as well, and we decided to open up a local reproductive genetics laboratory in South Africa. We approached it with much gusto. We started 3 weeks before COVID started. We had to work underground for about 6 months while everybody was locked up. And in August of 2020, I opened it up together with this gentleman on the right, who's not with us today, but his name is Quentin Goodyear. To the doctors and fertility specialists in the audience today, they know him very well. He's my medical director. He has a master's in biology and genetics, 15 years of experience. And we went out to the IVF labs to start giving genetic testing at a affordable price, a good turnaround time, a face behind the laboratory. And thank God, we have grown unbelievably in the last 4 years. We have stayed specialists in reproductive genetics. As I explained in the beginning, genetics is a very big field. There's cancer genetics, there's pharmacogenetics. Genetics is playing a big part in our health today. But we remain the reproductive genetics, and to date we've tested over 7,400 embryos in South Africa. We also service most of the IVF labs in South Africa, right across here, Cape Town, KwaZulu-Natal, Pretoria, and everywhere else. What do we do? Well, we started off with 3 tests. One is called PGTA, pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidy. And as you heard our previous speaker explain, that once a woman hits over the age of 35, the chance of genetic mutation and genetic abnormalities starts becoming a pretty big concern. The older a woman gets, the chances of genetic mutations and problems in that area grows significantly. And so what the fertility does now is that once there is fertilization of your embryos before they implant back an embryo, They will send us a biopsy, not of your baby, but most people go, what do you do with my babies in the freezer? And we say, we don't get your babies. We just get a few cells of that which will form the placenta, and we check it for genetic abnormalities, and then come back to the doctor and we'll tell them if there is gross genetic loss or addition of genetic material, which means then that this pregnancy would probably not be viable, would end up in miscarriage. Or if, God forbid, you did carry it, you might land up with a very severely deformed child, or, God forbid, face death. For example, Down syndrome. So this is something that has become very common in the fertility and something that is very much done in most fertility labs, and is part of your fertility journey. We also do a test called PGTN, which is pre-implantation genetic testing for monogenic disorders, and that is when we zoom in because we know that there is a family history of genetic disease. So you have cystic fibrosis, or you have any other genetic disease that you are aware of. Not only will we check the embryo for its general genetic health, but we will be very specific on that genetic disease. And again, if that appears in the biopsy, you will not, they will encourage you obviously not to reimplant. Today, PGTM is actually expanding beyond IVF labs because we are getting people that are healthy, that can fall pregnant, but are carrying a genetic disease. Just as an example, just a while ago we had 2 cases of healthy individuals who have no problem with fertility, but who have the BRCA genes. Breast cancer is very predominant in their families. Mothers, aunts, grandmothers, etc., are all displaying the disease later on in life, and the young woman decided she does not want to pass this genetic disease anymore down the line. And so she went to a fertility lab, and they obviously did IVF on her, sent the embryos to us, and we determined which embryos did not carry the BRCA gene. So now, thank God, we've got the ability to actually stop genetic disease from passing on. We also do products of conception. Products of conception is a genetic test which takes place, unfortunately, when a woman has had a miscarriage. Generally, it's performed after recurrent miscarriages, where you're falling pregnant and then there's a miscarriage and there's a miscarriage. And this doesn't have to be with the IVF labs. It can also be with gynecologists. And there we check to go and see, are you miscarrying, because there is a problem with the genetics of the embryo. I have to emphasize that everything that I'm telling you now is not the be-all and the end-all, that if you get your genetics right, that all your problems are solved. But again, like most of the speakers today, we're a cog in the wheel. We're part of the testing that will allow a person to maximize all the knowledge, all the information we have today, so that you can have a healthy pregnancy. Why should you do carrier screening? Well, it boils down to one idea, and that is, are you going to choose your fertility journey proactively or reactively? We believe that genetic information is too crucial not to know, and it holds the key to the future of your families. So here are some of the proactive reasons to do genetic testing. Firstly, you've got informed family planning. If you or your partner are planning to have children, knowing your carrier screening status, if you have certain genetic conditions, can help you make informed decisions about your reproductive options. It allows you, as I said, to be proactive in managing any potential risks and seeking the appropriate medical guidance. Early intervention, because if you identify your carrier status you can enable early detection and intervention for certain genetic conditions. This is very important because today, knowledge is power. And as I said, well, before in the olden days, if you had a genetic disease, you just played the roulette. And you just hoped that, you know, your child won't be a carrier, or that you'll actually, you know, skim off the end and nothing will happen. Today, if you've got the knowledge, it's not a death sentence. In fact, it can be circumvented. Most importantly, and fundamentally, we've spoken a lot about emotional health. It gives you peace of mind because it allows you to prepare emotionally and educationally for any potential disasters. And it can also reduce this horrible uncertainty and anxiety during pregnancy. I'm a mother of 5 children, and I remember my first child, I was already pregnant when my sister-in-law decided to go and have she was getting engaged to be married, and her gynecologist, mine didn't, told her to go get checked for Tay-Sachs, and she came back positive. My sister-in-law is a twin with my husband, and I remember the incredible anxiety I had that I was already pregnant and that a blood relative, a twin, Nochal, was a carrier of a potentially terrible genetic disease. That was 36 years ago, but today you don't have to worry about that. You can have complete peace of mind. Of course, if you have a family history, if there's a known family history of genetic disease, carrier screening can help identify if you or your partner carry any gene mutations associated with conditions. We've spoken a lot about stigma. It doesn't matter if you do carry a genetic disease today, because there are ways and means in modern medicine to circumvent and to stop the passing on of that genetic disease to your future children.